Today, mortgage stress breaks higher. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, working latest posts covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Well, this was not meant to happen. After all, the official story is we are in recovery mode, yet the latest results from our rolling household surveys tells another story as unemployment and underemployment rise further, even as government financial support is being tapered down. As a result, mortgage stress, meaning those households with a mortgage and cash flow pressures, rose to an astonishing 41.6% in November. And it's worth remembering that before the pandemic, we sat at 32.9% back in February, so that's nearly a 10% lift, as more households are now feeling the pain. The surveys showed some mixed drivers of this result. Sure, a number of larger firms have come off JobKeeper as the economy reopens, but more smaller firms are putting more people on JobKeeper, even as the level of support is reduced. And this was confirmed by the segmental analysis of the latest payroll data, which showed growth among larger firms, but a fall among smaller firms. More households have had to recommence mortgage repayments as well now, with the ABA reporting that among the top 7 largest banks, deferred loans dropped from a peak of around $250 billion down to just $86 billion in November, with home loan deferrals by the largest 7 banks down to fewer than 145,000 customers. But this has placed considerable pressures on households recommencing, even as unemployment continues to rise. In fact, it was 7% in November, according to the ABS. And remember, this is artificially understating the true picture, as JobKeeper recipients are excluded. The unemployment rate actually increased 0.1 percentage points to 7%, which was 1.7 percentage points higher than a year ago. And unemployment increased by 25,500 people to 960,900 people, and increased by 238,900 over the year to October 2020. The youth unemployment rate increased 1 percentage point to 15.6% and increased by 3 percentage points over the year to October 2020. Our analysis also examines rental stress, property investor stress, and overall financial stress by state and household segments. Across the states, Tasmania still retains top mortgage stress spot in percentage terms, followed by Victoria and Western Australia. Rental stress is highest in New South Wales and Victoria, and across Australia, on average, 35.2% of those renting have cash flow issues. Among property investors, 25.6% reported a cash flow deficit as rents fell and vacancies rose. More are still considering selling, especially those holding high-rise apartments in Sydney and Melbourne. Across our segments, mortgage stress is highest among young growing families, which includes many first-time buyers who were attracted into the market by government incentives. This will not end well. Those living in the high-growth corridors are also under pressure, especially on the urban fringe, and we see more affluent households caught up in stress thanks to higher levels of unemployment and high leverage. Rental stress is broad-based, with many first-generation migrants also under pressure, as well as young affluent households. Many affluent households with investment properties are also stressed thanks to the proliferation of multiple properties and high leverage. Even as rentals fall in some areas, once again, units are most exposed and some are trying to sell. Overall financial stress, which is an aggregate of the 3 elements we've already discussed, is broad-based across our segments. This is a significant structural issue, and one which was already in play before the pandemic, but it's significantly worse now. The top postcodes by mortgage, rental and investor stress are presented now. This data is sorted by the number of households impacted by stress, again in cash flow terms. We see high representation in high growth corridors across the country, as well as some inner city suburbs. Investor postcode show the locations where the investors reside, not necessarily the location of their investment properties, and it tells you something about where most property investors are located. Overall financial stress is highest in the high growth corridors, areas where many households are under pressure, yet also areas where more development is underway and the homeland packages are being pushed very hard through the current government schemes. And we also map the stress, here is an example of mortgage stress in Melbourne, using geomapping tools. This is to illustrate the patchwork nature of stress, and orange and red cells are the highest stress areas. And there are two final points to make. As government support is wound back further, especially in the March quarter next year, it seems likely stress will continue to bite, unless unemployment turns around faster than everybody expects. And as the ABA said recently, don't wait until you're in over your head. Talk to your bank. They'll help you find a way through this. Don't tough it out on your own. This is excellent advice and should sound a note of caution to those who are considering a property move in the current environment. Mortgage stress can put considerable pressure on households and often leads to a sale later. So new purchasers should be cautious and develop their own cash flows prior to committing. Just because a lender agrees to make a loan, this does not necessarily mean it's a sensible decision from a borrower's point of view. A bank, after all, has a completely different view of risk, so buyers beware. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.